watch that stuff. It's much too much visual stimuli. Well, there. Now, speaking of visual stimuli.
Yes?
I actually watched C-SPAN last night.
Oh. Yes.
That was even worse than Les Miserables. I don't mean to say Les Miserables is terrible. It's just not my cup of tea.
It wasn't as bad as Eric Cantor.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be a stage production. I don't think it was meant to. Oh, I'm sorry.
The cliff or the
don't say
fiscal
that,
cliff? Or
it occurred to me we don't ever have to say fiscal cliff again.
Oh, we'll be back, though. 2 months from now, we're going to have the same thing all over.
Well, because we have a dysfunctional government. That's all there is to it.
No, we have dysfunctional Republicans. We should be very clear about what's going on.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
their ability to derail just the basic everyday function of government, yes, is...
Although, at least, I mean, something got done. A little something got done, not much. And they avoided this cataclysm that I guess might have sent all the stockbrokers into, you got a burn.
Yeah, I know.
What did you do? He's got a horrible burn on his...
I was cooking for my wife. I just wanted
And this is to make sure that you never have to do it again. Because you ended up in the emergency room.
No, it looks worse than it felt.
No, but that hurts. I can tell.
It's okay.
Yeah, I stabbed myself last night. It's just like that.
As a New Year's thing.
Yes.
I can't take it anymore. Because you were watching C-SPAN and you just had to drive something in the palm of your hand.
I was like, die! I was, and I missed. Oh God. So, I forgot what I was going to say.
We were talking about you watching C-SPAN.
Yeah, and then my son walked in the room and said, "Do we have to watch this?" and I said, seeing a lifeline,
Yeah.
No! No, we don't! Thank you.
Perhaps you'd like to watch something trashy and exploitative on cable.
Yeah.
Come to me, my son. Here's the remote. Follow your bliss.
I know what I was going to say. Your friend Senator Toomey voted to raise taxes on rich people.
That's one way of looking at it.
All right. Well,
another way of looking at it is that we have enshrined low tax rates for dividends and capital gains, which is how Toomey and all of his little friends make their money anyway.
Estate tax.
Yeah. Well, the estate tax. I don't know that. Was the limit now $5 million to affect an estate before the tax even applies? I mean, I'm not even sure what percentage of estates that actually applies to, but nobody I know. So there's actually a good. The New York Times had a story that I think the Post Gazette used for its coverage, and it basically the start of the story was just 5 years ago, this was a Republican wet dream.
That's true. 5 years ago, if you had said to the Republicans, "Hey, we can extend the Bush tax cuts
on everybody except the tiniest fraction of people,
we could do that,
and even they get some stuff
plus the inheritance tax, they would have gone insane.
Yeah, they would have loved it.
But this shows again. you can do these. You can play that game constantly, of how far off how far that the party. It's just amazing how it's been pulled off the rails.
And again, I hate to dwell on this because, it's such a victory for the president, right? But, the other shoe doesn't drop for another 2 months because they come back with the sequestration and the debt ceiling and all this stuff.
Right.
And now... the Democrats had the whip hand before because they had the expiration of all tax cuts, and they
have less.
Now they really don't have the same kind of leverage, and it's very, very, very clear that the Republicans will come back. And let's remember,
do what they do.
Yeah, let's remember as of today is it today the day that the new Congress gets sworn in? We've got Keith Rothfuss from Western Pennsylvania and some of these other guys going in, and they will clearly come back and they will do what they did in 2011.
What I saw, we're doomed until it's gerrymandering that has screwed us. And it's two things I've decided. It's the Democrats' inability to educate and corral their voters for off-year elections and for legislative elections, thus ceding that to the Republicans, who then control all these legislatures, consequently control the ability to redraw districts. And they've done it brilliantly because you now have, with computer models, the ability to do that. And so we saw in this last election that even though Democrats got, I forgot how many million more votes for the House, it didn't mean they won the seats. So I saw today somewhere that somebody's done the math, and in order to beat this gerrymandering, Democrats literally have to win these House national elections by 7% minimally.
So a 53-46 margin or something like that. Yeah. And that's doable if the people get pissed off enough, and if the Democrats use their obvious skill at knowing who their base is and getting them out. But why won't they do it? It's the only way to get this government functioning. And it's not, and we should be clear, it's not just messaging, it's also the policy. Because the other thing that really nobody's talked about is my taxes and most other people's within the sound of my voice will be going up.
Yes, because of
the payroll tax. I just had to tell the staff that, it's the expiration of a 2% thing, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, so there's been all this talk about, protecting the thing, and yet people are still going to see.
But let's make clear, that has been a very short-lived gift.
Yes, that's true.
Given.
That's true. But
that only came in this will just take them back to 3 years ago.
Right.
Before it, that was a stimulus measure.
I understand that. But people experience the paycheck that they get. Like, that's what they know. And they're not exactly wrong to know that. So, again, 2 months from now, Republicans are going to come back. We've got to cut spending. And people are going to go, hey, my paycheck did get cut. So I'm probably going to be more sympathetic to the argument than I might have been otherwise. Obama has said, I love this. Obama said, I'm not negotiating over the debt ceiling.
I'm not going to have this argument again. Well, guess what? Yes, you will.
Aren't you the guy who told us $250,000 was every taxes over that? It turns out by $250,000 he meant $400,000. I mean, so it's going to turn out that I'm not going to negotiate over the debt ceiling means he will negotiate.
But you know what negotiate? Do you know how negotiation works?
Sure,
well, of course, you come in and say $250, and that he never expected to get $250.
Yeah. And nobody, and I can tell you, Republicans do not believe him now. They don't believe him now. When he says, I'm not negotiating the debt ceiling, there's no Republican who actually believes that. So why wouldn't they do the leverage? Why wouldn't they use the leverage? I mean, we saw what they did when they didn't have any leverage.
Let me tell you, it's so depressing to watch supposedly the greatest nation on earth. Yeah. This is our government. Yeah. This is what it comes to. Literally, it's like children. It's like watching children. Children maybe would do better.
My kid would.
Yeah. No.
He was sharing his milk with the teddy bears this morning. My child would have done better.
Up until they can't do a thing until there's a gun pointed at their heads.
Yeah. And even then,
they just embrace the gun.
Right. Embrace the gun.
Oh, a gun. I feel
the gun.
Safe. Oh, there's a gun at my head. I feel so safe. Guns make me feel so
They make us more polite.
They're so cozy. I go to bed with my gun. My gun is my best friend. And apparently they adjourned without providing any more, I guess, some extension of relief for the Sandy victims, which
they did the milk thing. Like that.
They did the milk
thing. Isn't that the most
thing.
Amazing thing? They were holding up the milk. Those are those are dairy farmers.
And I come from the dairy state, and I can tell you those dairy farmers vote Republican. And it was the Republicans who were...
It was because they wanted to beat the crap out of some welfare recipients. That's what you're up against. You're up against people who are perfectly willing to screw over their own voters because they wanted to make some welfare people feel bad, be in worse shape. Like, it's just like, what do you even do with that? That's why, to some extent, as much as I'm disappointed in Obama, it's just like, what do you do with people like that? Once you're stuck with them...
I know.
Once you're stuck with them, what do you do?
I can't imagine being Obama. I mean, having to literally deal with this.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Or Harry Reid, who apparently was told by John Boehner, according to Politico, go F yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And he told him that at the White House.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it with these wonderful Republicans?
Well, see now Boehner can go back to all of his little Tea Party meetings and be like, I really stuck it to that Harry Reid boy.
Okay, so I want to bring up the fact that Hillary Clinton has given us a scare.
Yes. Yeah,
that was shocking because, I mean, she seemed like sort of, the Energizer Bunny of all pals and somebody who seems sort of indestructible, and to see her brought down is scary almost.
And it makes you think about, because if I understood this correctly, she had a concussion and then there was this clot as a result of that concussion, which makes you think, Jesus, concussions.
Well, concussions are. That's why it's like a thing. So I don't know. So now, if she chooses to run, people will say, well, she's prone to.
If you haven't had it once, that's prone. Really? Is that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really?
I mean, if you've kicked off one clot, you can.
Kick off another.
What?
This didn't stop. People voted for Dick Cheney twice, even though he was using an Energizer Bunny for a heart. I think.
I know. He was walking around with his heart in a briefcase,
right next to the launch codes.
Oh yeah, which is the launch codes?
The launch codes are heavier. They take up more space than Dick Cheney's heart.
Oh my God!
That's how you tell.
Well, I always thought it was so funny that Dick Cheney had heart trouble because there was no evidence that he had a heart to have trouble. Oh, God. And he's still alive.
He is.
And I remember Christopher Hitchens, when he knew he was dying, the thing that was bothering him the most was that he was going to predecease Dick Cheney. He wanted to see Cheney die.
Yeah, although he probably voted for him back in 2004. Good job, Chris Hitchens, right? I mean... Big apologist for the Bush administration. Suck it, pal.
No, don't ever say bad things about.
No, sorry. You don't. Once you've been the apologist for their Iraq strategy, you do not get to distance yourself from Dick Cheney.
I miss him.
He was a fine writer. There was a lot admirable about him, but you do not get to distance yourself from the Bush administration once. All
right, okay. So,
you want to do a break?
Yes.
This is our new. I know. You looked at me like you were going to do it, and I was like, she's going to do it.
I'm going to do it like on time.
I'm so excited.
I know. So here we go. This is our first break of 2013. Which, by the way, I wrote some checks yesterday.
Did you?
And I didn't.
Not even once?
Not for a second. I went 2013. I wasn't even thinking.
Man.
There must be something about 2013 that works good for me somehow, because I usually have trouble with that transition.
Right. Well, let's hope so.
Okay. Do it.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Lynn Cullen Live and Panera Bread celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s education in bigotry, hate, discrimination, and injustice began as he entered elementary school in Atlanta. Endeavoring to understand this kind of cruelty and humiliation, King began to read avidly about the history of his people, about slavery, and about the Civil War, and about such black men as Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, and Booker T. Washington. Inspired by his readings and Christian upbringing, he assured his family, "The Lord made us all equal, and I'm going to see to that."
Countdown to King, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health, and Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper's first issue of 2013 is available now. Pick up one today for big ideas for a new year, promised land, and news of the weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
So, did you bring your little child down for first night?
No, he was in bed by 9. We went over to my brothers, who they have a they do New Year's on London time, so that all of the kids can celebrate like a little balloon drop before they go to bed. And I will say that Cormac was very active. They had their living room like with some like little fog machine, like a dance thing.
You're kidding me.
And Cormac was like doing So we were very surprised, actually. We had never, because he's there. There's a bunch of kids. He was one of the youngest kids there. There was a lot of screaming and yelling. And sometimes, any kid is just sort of like, but he was out there on the dance floor. It was more than I would have been, for example. That kid danced more on New Year's Eve than I have in my entire life, and he's only 20 months old.
Well, I hope he keeps it up. I do. Well, speaking of movies, you've got a scene from one of the movies made around these parts.
Promised Land.
On your cover, which is out today, Pittsburgh City Paper. And there you have my two friends.
Your friends?
Yes, my buds.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name and what's her name?
I think it's Frances McDormand and
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, I did spend a little time with them.
Okay.
Especially with her.
Yeah.
And she's a nice lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't feeling well.
Oh, dear.
No. So, Promised Land. It's getting mixed reviews.
We gave it a good review as a sort of, psychological thing. It's a lot about, obviously, it's about the natural gas industry. Coming to a place.
Some people say it's a little preachy, but on the other hand, it does present both sides in a way of like the difficulties that are presented.
And there's a secret plot twist that we're not supposed to discuss.
Okay.
I happen to know what it is,
don't.
Yes, so I won't. But at any rate, so apparently, your friend Matt Damon and Frances McDormand both play land people, the landmen who go around to people's houses and get them to sign the gas lease.
Right.
And so they go there, and then that guy from The Office, John Krasinski, plays a environmentalist.
Married to Emily Blunt. He wrote it with Damon.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
So he plays an environmentalist who is trying to convince people that it's bad. So, in some ways it's essentially a sort of...
And Hal Holbrook plays a wise old man.
Right, yes. I think the superintendent of schools or something like that, an educator who has doubts about the industry. So the idea of the film is kind of, do you, by cashing in, are you selling out your neighbors?
But for some of them, the cashing in is saving their farm.
Yes, or helping their kids get
helping their kids. Exactly right.
So
that's why it's my range resources.
Yeah. Keep it up, Lynn. Maybe we'll get them to advertise too. I think that would be a first for us.
Okay, so you gave it a good review?
I think it was recommended. It got the City Paper stamp of approval from our very own Al Hoff.
But it hasn't opened here yet, has it?
I think it opens. I think it has opened.
It has?
Yeah.
I know another movie I saw that I went to see just because it was made here.
What was it?
The Tom Cruise movie.
Oh, yes.
Jack Reacher.
And what was your take on that?
Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I normally would never watch a idiot movie like that.
Right.
But I enjoyed it.
You did it for the skyline.
I did. And Pittsburgh so stars in it. And you know what? It is a riot. What these Hollywood types so love right where we're sitting. Mm-hmm. Because the little alley here where Weiner World is.
Oh, yeah.
Weiner World on Smithfield has now been in 2 movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are always these chases right down, heading toward the U.S. Steel building.
Right.
And I think this car chase was much better than the Dark Knight one. Yeah.
There you go. Well, that's the standard by which these films are judged.
Well, but the Dark Knight one just kept going up and down Smithfield. Yeah. I mean, anybody who knows the street said, hey, wait a minute. No.
Saks is still closed. Oh, no, Catwoman. Where will you go for your Hermes scarf or whatever that is? Is that what it is? Is it Hermes?
I don't know.
Hermes. Yeah, Hermes. I think. After the...
Hermes.
Yeah.
So, guys,
that's the whole secret plot of that movie, is she's just looking for a place downtown to shop.
Boy, does Pittsburgh look good on that film, though. It does.
Which one?
Reacher.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
And, it starts with somebody not in the parking lot across from PNC Park across the river, knocking off a sniper, knocking people off that are walking.
Like members of the Pirates?
No.
Oh, too bad.
Of the public.
They just taking out the front office. The entire front office will be back next year. and a grateful city cheers. Just a moment for full disclosure. I'm actually not suggesting that anybody kill any member of the Nutting family or the executive staff at the Pittsburgh Pirates or Major League Baseball.
Yes. And that disclaimer was well advised, I must say. Jeez.
Oh, so you just pick up like people on the bridge? Like, is that like
not on the bridge? I mean, there's a walkway on the river.
Oh, you mean the little on the north side, though?
Where you're looking at it, and what you're looking at is it says PNC Park, and
right.
they're walking.
Right.
And it's a chilling scene. It's a chilling scene because you do it through the viewfinder of the guy's gun, and you can see how he's wandering around. Here comes a little child, and you see the child and think, "Oh God, no!" And then he moves. Just awful.
On the bright side, if they were headed to PNC Park, being killed by a sniper might be the easy way out.
Listen, all right, stop it already.
Those are my first anti-pirate jokes of the new year.
Okay, well, speaking of PNC Park, in your newspaper, you suggest that the Roberto Clemente Bridge, which is the bridge heading to the park, be made into a park itself.
I don't suggest that. That was a suggestion made by one of my news staffers.
Okay, explain.
So the idea was, hey, we got 3 bridges.
I mean, every 2 feet there's another bridge.
They all look alike.
Yeah.
They all go to the same place.
Yeah.
So why not just shut one down and turn it into a plaza, as it were?
Because it often is shut down.
Yes, because it's shut down for games and
other events.
And some other events sometimes too. So why not just do it permanently and have a place be where...
Like a park across the river.
Yeah, like a little park across
I sort of like that idea.
Yeah. We once had, so this is an issue we do, I think, almost every year. And some of the ideas are very practical and sensible, and some of them are more fanciful. That was probably on the more fanciful side. We once had a suggestion before Three Rivers came down that be turned into, that it sort of be plugged up and turned into
like
an open body of water.
I think
the idea was just that it could be a place for people to competitively fish.
Oh,
so it'd still be like a sports arena.
But you could
that actually would be a good idea, too.
Naval battles.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah, that would be fun. Like a little paddle boat with like a water cannon on it and blast it.
Well, no, bigger. Okay. And you say you want to promote ethical eating. What is that? No eating at all?
No, that's the idea there is people are very good about ethical eating when it comes to the treatment of animals and things like that. You know, people go and say, well, was this a free-range chicken and all that stuff. Nobody ever thinks about how restaurants actually treat their employees. And so what's happening in some other cities is there are some places where people are doing like a kind of report card for that kind of thing. You know, do people get paid on time? Do they make a decent enough wage? And so on and so forth. And that people would eat on that basis, which I think is interesting. Actually, the idea, I didn't write this piece, but I sort of passed along the idea. And it was suggested in part by some stuff that other cities were doing. It was also suggested in part by a local blogger, Sue Kerr, who does Pittsburgh Lesbian Correspondence, who suggested many months ago to me in an email, everybody talks about, the free-range chickens and where the cattle slaughtered.
What about the people?
But what about the actual people working in the kitchen?
Yeah.
And it's sort of the gustatory equivalent of you watch a movie about the Civil War and you cry when the horse goes down. You know what I mean? It's a very weird ethical blind spot we have. So it's something that I think it is. And she said it to me. I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
Well, how do you find out what restaurants? Because generally.
To some extent,
a restaurant worker is usually badly
paid, and that's the thing. And of course, there's no way short of, maybe if it's a national chain, you get some sort of information that way. But yeah, generally speaking, it has to be self-reported or come from the employees themselves. So yeah, that is the trick. But I think If we were serious about it, and this goes sort of beyond what the story says, but I mean, if we were serious about it, there are obviously ways of, we have grades for food safety and things like that.
But you think of this stuff all the time. It's like why I don't shop at Walmart, okay? Right. Yeah. That's my ethical thing.
Sure.
I don't because they drive down the labor costs all over the place.
Else, right.
And so I just don't want to... But, I have the ability to do that.
Right.
What if you're one of the people who's getting squeezed and you don't have much disposable income? Walmart's the place you would... So, I mean, it's such a weird, vicious circle where they depress people's wages and then people have no choice but to shop in their stores.
Right. That's right. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of the Ford model. Instead of paying everybody enough so that they can afford to buy your products, you pay them so little that yours is the only place where they can afford to shop.
That's right.
It is interesting. I mean, there was a protest. We talked about this a few weeks back. There was a protest out front of the Walmart in Aspinwall
on
Black Friday, and it was precisely to complain about the things you're talking about, low wages and workers not feeling like they could speak up. And I noticed as the protest was going on, the sheer number of people, many of whom were black or very obviously working class, because you'd watch them roll up in their, sort of rattletrap cars or whatever and get out. And they were going into Walmart because it was just sort of a limited. I mean, they didn't have a hell of a lot of other options, as you say. So that is the challenge we face as a nation. I think it's not about this stupid deficits or austerity crap. It's how do we build each other up.
Well, I mean, we all know that we've been tearing down the American dream and access to upward mobility. It's outrageous because the government serves the rich.
Yeah.
On the backs of
the poor and the working class.
It's so true. I mean, there it is. You can see it. And the only way we're going to start to remedy it is, again, to go back to the first thing I said, is to get these insane Republicans out of the House.
Yeah.
Out.
Yep.
And Pennsylvania voters are not doing their share. As a matter of fact, Pennsylvania voters are adding Republicans to the House.
Yeah.
We should be ashamed at what we're doing.
Yeah, and there are at least, there are at least two within earshot, essentially of who ought to be more vulnerable. I mean, Tim Murphy, unbelievable. That guy always amazes me. And it's never just that he wins, it's that he wins
by a lot.
He coasts.
I don't know why
there's
you
never
guys
been
like
a viable well, because I mean, in fairness, there's never really been a viable challenge to the guy.
You always say that, but I mean, everybody always says that, but I don't know. The last time these people that run against him are not viable. Why?
I mean, I've met or spoken to, I think, 3 of the past 4 or 2 of the past 3. I did not talk to Larry Maggie, who didn't. I mean, there's a good example. Why would you even bother voting for that guy? I mean, he was this is one of those guys who's like, Democrats don't understand it. They're waging war on natural gas. And it's just like, what are you talking about?
If I want a Republican, I'll vote for the Republican.
The previous guys were nice guys, but they had no money. They really had nothing going for them. I mean, so how can you? Well, there again, Stephen O'Donnell, who's a very smart guy and a decent fellow, and he just, I think the only ad I saw that ever mentioned Steve O'Donnell was like the one ad that Murphy put up that was just like, Stephen O'Donnell, he misspent tax dollars, and it was just,
well, whose fault? Again, that's the Democrats not supporting.
That's right. People. I mean, because there's just not a lot of commitment. It's this sort of chicken and egg scenario thing. Do the candidates not have a chance because the DNC doesn't put money into them, or does the DNC not put money in them because they judge that the candidates don't have a chance? I mean, I remember talking to O'Donnell after that race, and I said, what is it going to take to for the Democrats to field somebody? And he just said it's going to take somebody with a lot more money of their own money than I have. So that's where we stand. Yeah.
It's a bummer.
It is a bummer, but I mean, at some point you got to extend the battlefield, and I don't know how to do it, because you just look at, and the conventional wisdom, and it's probably right, is the only way you're going to get somebody elected out in these districts is somebody who's like those Democrats don't get it, or a Mark Kritz type, or whatever, who goes on TV with ads, where he shoots abortionists or something like that to prove his.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. I mean,
so it's depressing.
And there's our first depressed silence of 2013. Thank
you very much. You're the one who brought it on.
I did. I'm sorry.
I mean, all of us, we were laughing, and now I feel deflated. Thanks a lot.
Sorry.
And the Steelers aren't in the playoffs.
Yeah. But well. This is. I mean, they were just star-crossed this year. Didn't you feel like that? Like right out of the gate, half the damn team was just like laid up.
It's a brutal game.
Yeah.
It's a wonder that anybody. I don't know.
And they just blew it. They just blew it against some teams that they can't afford to blow it against.
So guess where I'm going Saturday?
To watch the Packers or something. Are they still in it? I don't even know. I haven't paid any attention.
Well, there was a great game last weekend.
Yeah, was there?
Yes. It was the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, quite the rivalry.
Yes, and the Vikings had to win if they were going to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was the most exciting game I've seen all season.
Yeah, I think I heard that.
It was a great game. Great game. And the Vikings won.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which meant the Packers did not get a bye week.
Oh, dear. Well.
Which meant the Packers have to play Saturday. And guess who they're playing?
The Vikings again?
Rematch of a great game. Only this time, Lambeau.
And Lynn Cullen will be there.
Lynn Cullen, who said, I will not watch any more football, I will not aid and abet this, blah, 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 is traveling.
Because of the concussion safety
all of
thing?
it. Because of everybody's being dragged off the field. I will be part of the screaming memes.
The horde. The savage horde demanding blood.
So of all the games being played this weekend, there's only one being played at night.
And that's that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why would you decide to play a night game in January in an open-air stadium?
For the TV audience?
In Green Bay.
For the TV audience, I would assume, right?
Well, certainly not for the people in the stand.
Well, TV's where the real money is. Come on. So.
All right.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
wear layers.
It's going to be a good game. I mean, I don't frankly give a damn. I was browbeaten into it.
Are you saying that's just in case they lose, you can be all like, oh, well, I wasn't really.
I was browbeat into it, my brother.
Oh, I see.
You gotta come. You gotta come.
Did he start quoting from his book on honor and stuff like that? As I say in chapter 12.
Oh, God. So, anyway. All right. So, Green Bay. Okay. When I come back, I'll be talking more like this again.
Yeah, okay.
Because when you immerse yourself in the Lambeau Field thing, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And also because your lips freeze. And when your lips freeze and your nose sort of like is constricted to try to keep the cold air out, you do talk like this. Try it. Here, do this.
So you're saying it's actually a physiological thing?
Seriously, pinch your nose a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And now try to talk.
Yes, I'm going to.
Oh, see, a little bit.
A little bit.
Go. Come on. Go. See how that works?
Yeah,
go
very nice.
Go pack. Go pack. All right. We got to take a break.
Again? Oh, look.
Right on the money.
Son of a bitch.
Right on the money. Hey.
This could be a whole new thing.
More on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to BergBargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite local restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 30% on gift cards to the Hard Rock Cafe. Supplies are limited. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is a lung disease that robs people of their ability to breathe. As many as 24 million Americans suffer from COPD, also known as chronic bronchitis or emphysema, and half of them don't know they have the disease. If you or someone you love is over 35 and has smoked more than 100 cigarettes in their lifetime, visit driveforcopd.org and take the screener, then take that to your doctor. I'm Jeff Stoltz, and I drive for COPD.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, we're back, and I heard somebody tweeted the other day that on the Today Show, Pittsburgh was being lauded as the new Portland.
For God's sake.
That'll kill us.
Why do we have to?
Why
do you have to be the new any?
Yeah,
damn
right.
Thing?
It's just Pittsburgh, okay?
And people have been saying that for like umpty dump, whatever. The whole thing of sort of going around, let's find the new hot city is just
baloney.
It's just the horseshit. It's so magazines can sell copies so they can say, here's
well, but there is a little trend here of younger people coming here, artistic types coming. Young artistic types. Look at Lawrenceville.
Yes. Yeah.
You see them all over the streets.
Yeah.
Hordes of them.
Yeah. Many of those people were here before.
But they're staying.
Yeah.
And they're coming.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have Sharon Needles. Sharon Needles came here.
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. It's probably the wrong thing for an alt weekly editor to say. It's just like, great.
All right.
Another reality TV show star. That's awesome. Jenna Maraska, too. It's so much to boast about.
And
Amber Burkitch and the Dance Moms.
Dance Moms.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Too bad Honey Boo Boo doesn't live here. Okay, the Post-Gazette, Lynn says, this is not me, Lynn, somebody else, North Huntington.
Who writes by email.
The Post-Gazette endorsed Murphy. That would be Tim Murphy. Yeah. Then complained after the election that we elect too many Republicans.
Yeah.
Do you think like their editorial board is like riven?
Yes.
Yes.
I need to be careful what I say here.
Oh, do you really?
Yes.
Why would that be?
Because there's some interesting dynamics on the...
Oh, my God. See, he knows so much that he won't share.
I'm trying to figure out a way to do it, but
I'm trying to think who's... Okay, let's think of who's on the editorial board.
Shake it out.
Okay, Tony Norman is on the board.
Yes. And it's not that Tony Norman is secretly
he's not a Republican. No, so he'd be the
That's all I'm going to say.
Liberal.
That's all I'm going to say. Suffice it to say, there's a dynamic on that board that explains why they would endorse Tom Corbett in 2010.
Oh God!
And that,
I know that part of it is Corbett was, doing the usual thing about privatizing the state stores.
Yep.
That's well known.
That's part of it.
And that is part of it because the owner of the paper, I believe, Mr. Block,
the Block family. Yeah.
The Block family.
Block Communications.
One of them, or whoever has really, this is a thing with him. It makes him insane. And he wants because he wants the advertising.
Yes, that's a big part of it. Yep.
If you had a lot of liquor stores, they'd be advertising.
It would help us too.
PG.
Yeah. It would help us too.
It would help you too.
Sure.
Well, then let's privatize the damn stores.
Might help your show. Get some more booze.
It was so funny. There was a guy who wrote a letter to the editor a few days ago. He was, how you get so angry that you actually, I got to write a letter. I mean, maybe never had done it before. What angered him is he'd gone on New Year's Eve day to buy some booze.
And it was closed for New Year's.
It was the December 31st, and it was open. But he went at 10:30 in the morning, and it was closed because this state store opens at 11.
Right.
And he went insane enough to write this letter as if the world was ending because any store would know that's a day that people are going to be buying booze, and why wouldn't you open it at 8? But don't you think that's a funny thing to be that upset about? That
I think the whole issue is a funny thing to be that upset about.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I've never quite understood the whole thing.
And now that I've come to know so many of the clerks at the state store employees who say, "Oh, hi, Miss Cullen. You back again?" I thought I just saw you yesterday. You having another party?
That's when you know you have a problem.
That's right. No, so you go to different state stores.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I went to that one. Let's see. On Tuesday, I better go to this one. I think
that's the 7th step in AA is you go and you apologize to all the clerks at the state store system for your...
But see, once you get to know those people, you don't want them to lose their job.
Right, that's true, exactly.
They're good people.
Yeah, or their health benefits. We should add about Murphy that, of course, did you see his speaking of the Post-Gazette, Murphy, he had a op-ed piece there a couple days ago.
Which was roundly panned by
and rightfully so. I mean, it was so ridiculous. It was just like, if you just close your eyes and imagine Tim Murphy, what kind of op-ed would he write in the wake of the Newtown shootings?
Well, he's a psychologist.
As it turns out, he's
an expert in psychology.
He's an expert. So he's going to write a thing that's all about mental health and not make a single mention of guns. And as we actually point out in this week's issue, he himself is a recipient of several thousands of dollars from the NRA in just the past couple of years. So, so it's great to see. It's great to see this newfound concern with mental health on the part of the Republican Party. I'm really touched by it.
I know. It's amazing how all of a sudden they're into mental health reform. Gee.
Except as it applies to their own caucus, of course.
No, that caucus needs an exorcist.
Yeah.
I mean, a psychiatrist wouldn't do them any good. They are so far gone. Bring in the Pope. Bring in some heavy hitters, seriously.
Yeah. And that's probably a constituency that does buy into demonic possession more than the average run of Americans.
That's true.
Yeah, it might actually do some good.
It might. So, here we are, new year, and we can't expect that anything's going to change in D.C.
Right.
It's going to be the same...
Maybe even worse.
Frustrating... Well, here's the thing. Usually in the off-year election, so 2 years from now, the party in power suffers, and there's more. So you would expect that more Republicans then would win. If that happens, I'll just flip out. I think that this is the time when everybody said that Obama couldn't win because nobody has been reelected with unemployment at this level, with confidence in everything, and everybody thinking the country's on the wrong track. No one gets reelected. He gets reelected big time. So
Democrats add to their margin.
Yeah, but I think all those usual, the wisdoms, the political wisdoms, I think throw them all out. Now, throw them.
Yeah.
It's all over. Throw it. So I think that we can actually knock more Republicans out of the House 2 years from now if we get our act together, right?
Yeah. It's possible.
You're agreeing with me?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, first of all, just counseling despair at this point is just going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's right.
And B, I mean, clearly some new things are at work here. We're seeing the emergence of what could be the building blocks for established and lasting Democratic majority here. When you look at, how Latino voters are doing, how the young voters are doing, how everybody really, except for these aging white males, is
That's
doing.
right.
So if the way can be found, and I mean, the bitch of it now, the hell of it is that, of course, as you said before, we've got this gerrymandering thing to overcome. But if we were somehow able to pull that off, it could really be the start of something very, very good.
Well, we have to start doing it at sort of a lower level.
Right.
In other words, we've got to take over state legislatures. We've got to knock we got to take congressional district races really seriously.
Yeah.
And we've got to get our voters out.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this will be an interesting year on the state and on obviously the local level. We haven't even talked about the mayoral race. And then, Tom Corbett apparently today is announcing that he's suing the NCAA for its sanctions of Penn State, which just feels like...
Is he doing it for the sanctions, or is he saying that the money there...
I don't know exactly what the legal theory is. I don't know what the legal theory is yet, but what it's been reported...
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there was part of the penalties was $60 million in fines, and state officials have been saying that money should stay in Pennsylvania. I mean, I guess the theory is if you're an abused kid in Ohio, maybe Ohio State should get its own pedophile coach, and then you could get some money or something like that. I mean, I have no patience. Don't you
think it's a little surprising for Corbett to in any way bring up?
I think it's a great.
Bring up Sandusky and
no, because
Penn
now he can be the champion of Pennsylvania abuse victims. He gets to do that we held on to. That's what he's going to. He knows it's going to come up. He knows that issue is going to get used against him in 2014. He knows it.
I see.
So this way he's going to be able to say, "Look, I stood up." And you know what? Honestly, I mean, maybe he's going to play both sides against the middle. He also gets to stand up to the NCAA. So even people who are Penn State rabid fans can say, "Well, at least he stood up to the NCAA over something." But yeah, no, I think it's mostly now I stood up for Pennsylvania abuse victims as though they somehow count for more than abuse victims in other states. I just there's a part of that really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it feels almost like the same kind of homerism and boosterism and our kids count for more than your kids that in some weird sort of way leads to stuff like this in the first place. Not to the abuse itself, but to people's willingness to count in this and tolerate it. Just if the program is worthy, it's worthy in Iowa, it's worthy anywhere. And to sort of like say, oh, it's our money because there's just something about that really stinks for me.
No, of course. Of course. You're such a voice of moral wisdom. Did you ever entertain thoughts of going into the clergy?
No, I did help teach Sunday school, though.
You did?
Yes,
see?
Yeah.
No, you'd be a great minister.
Yeah, thanks. Is that a compliment? I'm not really sure.
No, because you'd give great sermons and you're...
I'm less and less sure this is a compliment the more you...
No, it is.
You like to talk.
Right. You're a leader.
You like to inflict your views on other people, whether they ask for them or not.
But you would immediately rise in the, when you see the in status because minister.
Oh, from newspaper editor. Right.
From journalist up.
Right.
Journalist.
Well, really, there's no direction to go but up. From alt weekly reporter to building custodian actually is a step in the right direction, one would say.
So, how is it possible for anybody other than Ravenstall to win if more than one person takes him on in the primary?
Yeah.
I'm just asking. Is it possible?
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, another way to think about that would be if you had your choice between three good politicians, would Ravenstall come in first? Or would he come in like third? You know what I mean? Like, one could argue that if people had the option that that the guy. I mean, here's what they're up against.
But you're assuming that the
people
voter
are paying that much attention.
Ravenstall, the incumbency's huge, name recognition huge.
Yeah, I think what I think it would probably take is for some kind of, when there was snow, when we were driving over to my brother's on New Year's Eve and the snow was starting to come down, and I thought, if this were a Snowmageddon situation where it was New Year's Eve and the plow trucks weren't there in the city and there was a big snow thing, that's the kind of thing that could actually affect a mayoral election because I think in a lot of people's minds, even people who don't necessarily object that strongly to the direction of the city or think the city's in a good place right now, I think there are doubts about Ravenstall because he has this sort of track record of high profile, lapses in judgment, for lack of a better word. The city has, obviously been able to overcome them in the sense that things are going reasonably well. But I think if something like that were to happen in the next few months, I think you need something. Yeah, that really plays off of people's lingering doubts about this guy. You need something. I think you need something that plays into people's lingering doubts about
his leadership.
Yes.
On the other hand, since he's been mayor, Pittsburgh has been on the rise.
Yes.
We've, whether it has anything to do with him being mayor or not, it doesn't matter.
Right.
He's,
right.
And I'm sure challengers would say we could be so much.
That is
better.
What they'll say.
Well, of course, much better. It's happening despite him.
You can already see what Team Ravenstall will say to that is, why are you talking trash on the city of Pittsburgh? Why are you being so pessimistic about the city? You can already see that happening. So that's going to be kind of.
Is there any chance that Michael Lamb will say, "I'll sit it out"?
I don't think so. I mean, he's certainly not giving any sign. And from Lamb's perspective, Lamb could say, "Look, Peduto right now, he's got Fitzgerald's backing, da 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 da. He's a known name. He's run before, but he's also got more baggage than Lamb does. Like, you're going to be able to go back, and I can tell you this: what's going to happen on City Council for the next 4 or 5 months is every week, Ricky Burgess, who can't stand Ravenstall and is going to be kind of the proxy for. Or, I'm sorry, he can't stand Peduto. He can't stand Peduto. He's going to be the proxy for Ravenstall, and just go after Peduto and bring up votes from 5 years ago, and just basically talk smack on Peduto every chance he gets. And Peduto's going to
about that Burgess can't stand Peduto.
I mean, there's a multitude of things. One is that the mayor and Burgess are allied. There's a political consideration. He obviously, they represent adjoining districts, but they're worlds apart. Yeah. Peduto's district is obviously the most affluent in the city, and Burgess's is the most hard pressed. Right. So you've really so there's that, and there's just personality differences between them as well. So it really is those two guys, and Peduto has to take it. I think he's just going to have to show up at every one of those meetings, because if he doesn't show up at meetings, that'll get used. Why wasn't Bill Peduto at work for his constituents last week? So he's just going to have to sit there and take it. There are going to be some miserable meetings for him.
Does the city paper make endorsements?
We do not endorse. No,
I didn't think so.
We do not. We never have. But we'll be covering the hell out of this race. So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up. If
you were to rank the three as who would be the better mayor, how would you rank them?
That's really hard to say, because I don't know that, for example, right now, Lamb especially is sort of, I know him. He's a smart guy. I think he does a good job as controller, but I don't know, what he wants to do for the city yet. He hasn't really said anything. So, Peduto, obviously, there's a more sense of a vision.
Probably.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, I can remember when the two of those guys ran, because you remember both Peduto and Lamb ran back in 2005, and everybody knew neither of those guys had a prayer of winning. That was when Bob O'Connor, was the heir apparent. And, so it was interesting. They were very much gunning for the same constituency. They were both going for that progressive vote. They're both kind of wonky technocratic guys.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. And yeah, I just, and they both have, on just a personal level, they're both funny, good senses of humor, decent fellows. So it'll I think that's, a lot of people are sort of gnashing their teeth. I think that they, there's almost this embarrassment of riches if you're a progressive, because you do have two of these two decent guys.
But we want is just one.
And this is where being a one-party town, I think, I don't generally sweat this too much, because I don't think we lack for conservative viewpoints in the city of Pittsburgh.
Oh, good God.
I think the problem is because the primary is the election, there's no means for weeding out who's going to be the representative of the loyal opposition.
That's right.
If Ravenstall were the Democrat and there was a Republican, or if Ravenstall were the Republican and there's a Democrat, you'd have a process where people could make a decision and everybody would get behind
What about this? Righty. So Ravenstall wins the primary.
Yeah.
What about, would either Peduto or Lamb ever consider running as an independent in the general?
You'd have to withdraw before the primary to do that.
Oh.
So.
Oh no. So.
And.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think part of what was going on in the last few months of 2011 was Peduto was hoping that he would rack up enough money, Fitzgerald's support, that he would sort of win, the money primary, or the primary before the primary, and show that he had such a base of support that Lamb would back out. That clearly hasn't happened. And it'll be interesting to see. Peduto has had a high-profile fundraiser, that was where he basically made his campaign announcement. Lamb has not formally announced, although it's very clear he'll be running. I mean, he's hired a team and stuff like that. So I'll be very interested at the end of this month when we see what campaign fundraising for 2012 had been for those guys. And I think we'll learn a lot about, where the money's going and who's supporting whom when we see those financial reports.
Who's supporting whom? Spoken like an editor. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, so we'll have to get into this. Normally, I hate getting into local politics, but because I'm always so disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Are you?
Huh? Why don't you move into the city so you can vote?
That's why. I got tired of people knocking on my door and yelling at me.
All right. I'm done. I know the show isn't, but
No, that's it. We're 59. We started just before the 11,
we did.
The 10
we
o'clock hour. So it's good. No, we should pace ourselves. We'll need this extra 47 seconds later in the year. We'll need to draw on the reserves of energy.
Okay.
Which are dwindling every second.
Do you think?
Yes. Go.
You think? Say
Close
goodbye.
it now. Yes.
I believe Tom Sokolowski is joining me tomorrow.
Great.
And we'll have some fun. And Happy New Year again.
And to you.
Thank you to Mr. Potter for joining me and carrying me through this first hour.
You did fine.
Of the new year. And again, Happy New Year! Stay warm.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.